All right. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 3.
So exciting. I hope everyone listened to the intro at least. Natalie and I were having a conversation and it was just like a surreal moment this morning on my way to work. I put on my podcast and listened to myself. It was the coolest experience and I'm excited for everyone to tune in. So,
Yeah, same here. I know. I was like, wait a second. You can actually hear my voice on Spotify. Am I famous? Am I a millionaire yet? And unfortunately, I am neither one of those, but who knows? One day. But it was definitely cool listening to our voice and hearing our stories. And, as time go on, we will only get better from here. So
yes.
appreciate everyone that's listening to us. I'm sure it's just family and friends and random people on the internet just being like, what are these two girls doing?
No, seriously. But we're super excited. Also, happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week. I don't
Yes.
know about you, but this week felt like slow and fast all at the same time. And I'm like blinked and it was Friday, but I could not wait to this morning for it to be like 5 o'clock.
Definitely, I know. I was like, TGIF, everyone at work, don't make me do any work. And I had a stacked day, and little by little, things were getting canceled. I'm just like, God bless anyone who's canceling
Yes.
meetings on Fridays.
Like, sorry, we have to reschedule. Don't worry. Don't
Yeah,
even feel bad. I'm good.
exactly. Thankfully, one was my supervisor. I'm like, oh, no problem. But reality, I was like, let me go get a Coke slush and take a break.
Oh, a Coke
Um,
slush. I didn't realize you were a slushy
I
girl.
am a slushy girl, mimosa slushies, champagne slushes, rosés. Um,
Okay.
I
I also love a frozen anything, and my boyfriend Brandon does not. He's on the rocks, and I will take like on a hot sunny day, give me a frosé or give me a frozen margarita, and I'm a happy girl.
yeah, no, obsessed with it. My Brandon, and if listeners don't know already, Marlene has a Brandon with an
That is,
E, and I have a Brandon with an O. So
yeah,
it's funny how those just work out.
I
Um,
know.
but he also loves a virgin frozen, anything frozen. On the daily, I have like a frozen what are those packets called? Um,
Ooh, I
I'm
don't know.
blanking on what it's called. Why
A
can't I think of
frozen
it?
packet? Like you mix it
Like the
in?
5 calorie things that you like put into the water. Um,
Oh, yes, yes. You put that, and how do you make it frozen though?
and
Like
I
it's
just
just
put
a
a bunch of
powder.
ice and a little water and put the frozen, or not the frozen, the pack,
That's smart. The powder, that's
Crystal Light,
really
Crystal Light. That's what
Crystal
I'm
Light.
thinking of.
Okay.
And also one day we better be so famous that Crystal Light sponsors us because
Please.
um I sent corporate Crystal Light like a message like 10 years ago saying like, "Hey, I drink at least 2 packets a day every single day. Please sponsor me." I don't know why, but I was so obsessed with it. And now I also drink like the Great Value kind because they have different flavors than Crystal
Yeah.
Light and all the things. So yeah, I'm a slush girl through and through for at least a decade now.
Crystal Light come through. I feel like one day we're gonna be sitting here being like, and now from our sponsors, and Crystal Light's gonna be one of them. We're gonna like full circle moment.
Yes, Crystal Light, Walmart brand, whoever, but I
But
need
wait,
a
is
stash of
Crystal
packets.
Light just flavor, or do they have like energy? You know how like a lot of the newer brands are like energy, caffeine.
I think maybe it's not Crystal Light, but I know the Walmart brands do have energy or caffeine in them. And I told my boyfriend Brandon, I was like, um, I'm gonna give up caffeine this year and blah blah. Little did I know my packets had caffeine in them. So it was like 3 months in, and I was like still chugging caffeine.
Like, what? I'm caffeine free and it's great.
Yeah, I'm like, I can do this. So I just got other flavors. But yeah, that's my 2 cents of my shout out to our first sponsor.
Ha- Crystal Light, sponsor us, please.
All right, everyone, we're gonna get started. We're gonna jump
Yes.
into story number 1. Marlene's gonna kick us off.
I'm excited about this one. I have not read in detail these stories, but I'm reading this one and I'm excited. So it's am I the asshole for not wanting my fiance's work wife to attend our wedding? My fiance has this coworker who calls herself his work wife. At first, I ignored it, but now they text until midnight about things that definitely aren't work related. When we sat down to finalize the guest list, I told him she is the one person I do not want there. He completely flipped out and told me I'm being insecure and that excluding her will ruin his professional reputation with the rest of the team. I feel like our wedding should be a safe space without me worrying about their inside jokes all night. He thinks I'm being controlling, but I think he is crossing a major line. Am I actually overreacting? I need to take a breath for this because I'm sorry, who is she that if he didn't invite her, he would ruin like her professional reputation would be ruined. That's insane. And also, if Brandon was telling me that any one woman he was getting pissed because she wasn't invited, I would call off this wedding.
No, same here. And me and my boyfriend are a little bit different in our personalities. I'm kind of nonchalant and he's very like, I guess, very like relationship oriented and very traditional in how he views like
Okay.
friendship, and 100% believes that women and men can't be friends.
Okay.
But
I
I
kind of
think
agree with him.
there's a gray area in terms of coworkers. I think there's work relationships that are, like, completely different than your typical
Yeah.
friendships that you might encounter in the real world. Like, if I found a male friend in, just out and about at the grocery stores, I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, that's weird." But if
Yeah.
I had a male friend at work, that might be a little bit different. So that might be like my little hot take, but to go off what you said, yeah, 100% if someone says my wedding is gonna be, like, ruined because XYZ can't come, who the hell is she?
No, please, who is she? Like, even if she was, like, the president of the company, I don't know, maybe that made it a little different, but the fact that they're texting about things that aren't work related, that's where I feel like now they're crossing a boundary, and it depends on this person's relationship. Brandon and I are very clear. No, absolutely is he not, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but, like, is he allowed to text women late at night that's, like, non-work? No! Sorry, no.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. Even though I feel like, oh, I've made male friends in the past that truly are just male friends, there's no world where Brandon's gonna just be like, "Oh, no problem, you guys can text at midnight about unrelated things, and, like, I'm not worried about it." Um Even in the most secure relationships, I think this just isn't appropriate all around if you think that your wedding is gonna be ruined because some other woman or male in a different scenario isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
Unless it's a parent, sibling, maybe a close relative. Besides that, you should just be like, "Okay, no problem."
Your wedding. I keep thinking about this. Your wedding. It's not even just like a party that he's hosting and like, oh my God, it's not going to look good if I don't invite this coworker. It's your wedding. No, to me, you're not overreacting. And me being the toxic one in this relationship, I would be like, I need to see these tags. What is so important that you just cannot have her not at her wedding? That's a big red flag for me.
Yeah, but I'm also curious, like, have you not brought up this before? Like, were you trying to
Right.
be like a cool girl before and like, no problem, like it is what it is, and then just all of a sudden your wedding invitation list comes out and you're like, "Oh, no, I'd rather not have her there."
That's true. What is the timing of this, I suppose? Like, because she said oh, I guess she said when we sat down to finalize the guest list. So it kinda sounded like maybe he was like, "Okay, maybe when we talked about it, it wouldn't make sense for her to come." And she's like, "Well, maybe, we have 250 guests, we can invite." Regardless, like, I would be mad, and I don't think she's overreacting, and I don't know how much he's gonna push, but the fact that he's pushing back is a little bit insane to me, I'm sorry. Like, it's your
Yeah,
wedding day, and no offense, but, like, what your wife says goes, so
I agree. I think what wife wants trumps anything that you want, especially on a wedding day. And even wedding day aside, on the casual day, if your wife, partner, girlfriend doesn't feel comfortable with a certain female, there's a reason, and I think intuition says it all, and we say it all the time, but we feel something in our gut, and if you're pushing that much, in my gut, my gut would be telling me, "Don't marry this man."
For sure, and now I guess because we have to tie it back into the corporate world, like, honestly, this work wife, work husband BS needs to die. Like, I feel like that's ridiculous, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but what? Why are you calling someone else who's not your wife your work wife or your work husband? On
Yeah.
that note, though, like, from an HR perspective, have you ever run into a situation where you're, like, aware of, 2 coworkers who have that sort of relationship? Like, work wife, work
I
husband?
have. I have in a lots of jobs actually, and one was even like this chief HR person, and she was like the work wife to someone else at the company too. And it's one of those things where if you're flirty or you're kind, and I think it also goes when you're an attractive female in the workplace. Sometimes you're naturally charismatic, you're naturally
Yep.
flirty, but I think as soon as you start to put titles on things like work wife, whether you're in HR or just anyone else, I think you're definitely crossing a line. And they have something to tie it back to, right? Like, not only are
Oh, yeah.
you just kind in general, or you're super nice or sweet, or you go the extra mile for someone, you're blatantly saying, "Hey, I'm your work wife. We have this relationships that is beyond the natural coworker relationship." So I do think that it can be inappropriate. Do I think that there's always context that's maybe missing when you're listening to a story? For sure. If Marlene, you were like, "Hey, I'm your work wife," like a work wife to a 70-year-old man that's on the verge of retiring, right? Like, I think that might be funny. But if you're a work wife to a director that's in their 40s,
Yeah.
that probably inappropriate, you know? So I think there's always nuances to things, but overall, I do think it's inappropriate, especially if you're in a position of leadership or you're in a relationship. It most likely is going to be inappropriate to your partner, to your relationship, but also every relationship's different, so who am I to judge?
I will say my one advice to this girl is keep an eye on that. Regardless of if she ends up showing up at the wedding, which I don't think she should. I would say keep an eye on that and maybe ask him some more questions about their relationship.
Yeah, I am definitely hoping there's a little bit more time until the wedding, but the more he pushes for her, the more he's not pushing for you. So,
Oh,
we'll leave it
yeah.
at that.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better.
Alrighty, next story. And feel free to chime in the comments too if you're listening to this. Do you think it's okay to have a work wife, work husband while you're in a relationship?
Let us
All right.
know.
Story number two. Am I the asshole for telling a coworker she doesn't get special treatment just because she's sad? I love this one. All right. So here's the story. This title makes me sound like a jerk for sure, but hear me out. I work in a small office building for an estate company. I've been working here for 6 months now. In November, a coworker of ours, let's call her Linda to make it easier, came out as bi to us while we're grabbing dinner after work on a Friday. She told us she's known for about a month now and she's been sitting on it and coming to terms with it. And that she's been planning on telling her boyfriend that night, but she wanted our opinions first. I understood it because most of the people at the table were besties and we're all civil together and we're all girls, so maybe she just wanted a girl's opinion. Anyhow, the weekend goes by and she returns to work absolutely wrecked. I'm talking eyes puffy, hair a mess, wearing the same clothes from Friday. I heard through the grapevine that the boyfriend didn't take it well and dumped her. They've been together for 4 years, apparently, so she's obviously distressed. For the whole week, her performance has been absolutely horrendous. No work done, no meetings attended, absolutely nothing. Our team leader was good friends with Luna, so she divided Lena's work on the rest of us. I think they're getting the names mixed up a
I
little
think
bit.
so.
Let's say that her name is Lena.
Okay.
Just for the week, she said. But she continued on until now, and we're in February. Yesterday, the team leader decided to give me one of Lena's projects because this would have been her fifth anniversary with her boyfriend. I said no. I already had my own work. Why would I do someone else's work for her and she just gets paid for absolutely nothing while I'm struggling with my salary and now double the work? The team leader threatened to write me up, so I went to HR and told her everything that's been happening, showed her the emails where the team leader gave Lena's work and told us to be patient. On lunch break, Lena tried to corner me, telling me that she's going through a rough time and that I should be supportive. I told her I was supportive, but now she's just milking it. She comes and goes as she pleases because the team leader covers for her. She doesn't work because her work gets handed to us and it's not fair. I told her just because she's sad and she got dumped doesn't mean that we need to pick up her slack. We all have lives, we all have problems, we don't make it each other's problems. She called me a C word. Let's just say it here, cunt. And I just walked back to HR and told her what happened. They were both called in for a meeting, and now she's facing possible termination, according to the same grapevine. I don't think I'm in the wrong for going to HR. I'm not going to work for someone else, and they get to hand in and take all the credit. However, I think it's probably something I shouldn't have said. 4 years is a long time, and she did look absolutely wrecked. But at some point, it was getting a bit ridiculous and still expected to take over her work. Am I the asshole?
No, girl,
Another
first
deep
of all,
breath.
I'm mad at the manager. Like, for sure, people feel entitled, Lena, whatever her name is, but the manager is insane for thinking she was just gonna sick all this work on her. Ugh.
Ye Yeah, I think kudos to this girl for sticking up for herself, but I think it does go on the manager. Like, the manager's who this person who should be going to, having these conversations with, and clearly the whole team is being impacted by this. So I definitely don't think you're the asshole. I even think a week, 2 weeks is a stretch for taking on additional duties because someone's not feeling well, they're down the dumps, something happened. And I totally get that relationships mean a lot to people. I mean, whether you're just in a boyfriend girlfriend relationship or you got left at the altar or you're going through a divorce, one, take the time off and get paid that way. Or two, take the time off as a leave of absence or whatever and not get paid, however your company's structure is, because every company is different. In this scenario, you got dumped. And yeah, that sucks, but, like, life is still happening. So, I may not be, like, the most empathetic, and I get this a lot that, like, I'm not the most emotional, I'm not the most empathetic, but take your time off, however long you need that's allowed by the company, and then come back to work ready to go and do your normal job. Um,
No, I'm sorry. I would have I'll give you maybe a couple days. Sorry you feel sad, girl. Like we've all been dumped, but you're not dumping your work on me. And she's right. I think she had every right to do what she did in the way that she did it. And the fact that then this girl called her, yet she's clearly, I feel like, just taking advantage. The girl who got dumped of the situation. It's okay if you can't handle it. Like if you need a mental health break, take your break. I think there's another bigger conversation with that. I feel like we've hit in one of our last episodes where it's like companies are not organized well to like when one team member needs to take time off and then it's like all of a sudden there's no sense of like, okay, this is how we're going to split the work and the manager should take on the bulk of the extra work, not the team members themselves, and I will stick with that.
Yeah, 100%. And just because someone's trained to do the job and be a backup to someone doesn't mean that they should be the backup to you and take on all this additional work when you're physically able to, right? I
Right.
think there's a difference of getting dumped and then having like a mental diagnosis where, you have clinical depression or you really can't work. And in that case, don't show up to work, but also don't show up to work giving away your work and still racking in your pay. It's kind of a slap in the face of like, "Hey, I'm going through something. You get to do all the work, but I'm still gonna show up to work and not do anything."
Yeah. Sorry, Lena, whatever your name is. You would have gotten way less of a chance with me in this whole situation. The moment that she called her the C word, I would have been done.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
empathy out the door. Like, you're ridiculous.
So
Sorry you got
disrespectful.
dumped. Go cry
Yeah.
for a weekend. Go on a bender for whatever you need to do. But, like, come on.
Yeah, so I think Lena took the right approach. You went to your manager's not doing anything. So of course, next step is going to HR. I assume maybe there's not a supervisor above them, but I wouldn't even waste my time. Yeah, I'd go directly to HR of like, you're doing the work of two, not getting paid to do the work of two. And now you're kind of getting disrespected by this manager of thinking that you're just a workhorse. So absolutely not. And then I do want to touch on the actual story of this is that people always have a decision not to move forward in a relationship.
Yeah.
And your sexual orientation, and I know this might not, be part of quote unquote HR corporate appropriate, but this is why this podcast exists, is one, for our own
Right.
opinions, and two, to not be censored. So in my opinion, your sexual orientation, I mean, it's a huge part of it. If Brandon told me one day, "Hey, I'm gay," um,
Right. Like, whoa, what happened?
whoa, yeah,
Yes,
I didn't
and
sign up for it, truth be told.
right, yes, and I also feel like here is a public service announcement. Keep your personal life to yourselves. I understand that sometimes you get close to your coworkers and you wanna tell them all these things. They're not your friends. Some coworkers do make it out of, like, the coworker zone, but most people like, had the person who'd taken all this work on not known that all this was going on, maybe she would have been even maybe extra like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through something personal." But then you start to add on the, like, you gave her all the information, and yes, and now she's able to think for herself and say, "This is not worth me taking on twice work because you told your boyfriend that you're bi and he broke up with you." So, I don't know, lesson that I've learned, keep your personal stuff to yourself, you guys, okay?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think if I wouldn't have known the reason, I would have been a little bit more empathetic towards you. But if you just told me like you got dumped, everyone has been there. It's a part of life, it's a part of dating. Take a week off, take a weekend, cry, be in your pajamas, have your ice cream and your cake and all the things, but get over it, girl.
Get over it.
Or at least get over it to the point where you show up to work and you do a decent and adequate job of what's expected to you. If you go
Yeah, for
home
sure.
after your 9 to 5 and you break down and you have like microwave dinners and all the things, I get it. Do what you have to do, but if you have a job to get done, they're paying you to do a certain job.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation, and it's like, sometimes you gotta put your big girl pants on and go cry at home, but, like, do your job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
All right. That's it for that story.
Story 3.
Yeah, it sucks. RIP to the 4-year relationship. All
Yeah.
right, next story, Marlene, you're up.
Story 3, my friend pointed out that the reason a lot of managers suck is because in a lot of jobs, going into management is the only way to progress their career. Story time? I think she's got a point. I think certain people are great as managers and they have a personality that makes them suitable for that role. They love supporting people and are good at it. They may be natural leaders and or team workers that have both the company's and the team's best interests at heart. But there are so many people who go into management purely because they want a pay raise, and going into management is the only way up, resulting in people being in charge of others' work life who have no empathy or care about supporting or helping others. They go into management for selfish reasons, as money, career, development, rather than because they genuinely want to lead and support people in the best way. And it really shows in a lot of cases. Not to say those people suck in general. They are just not well suited or experienced to manage a team of their or they're being forced into the role for the wrong reasons. Thoughts, Natalie?
All right. Yeah, I can take this one first. I completely agree. I see this all the time, and we talked about this also in another episode, I think, of like, how do supervisors even get prepped to be a supervisor? Or do their supervisor or director, whoever, just decide one day, hey, you're doing an amazing job at your job. Now you get to be a supervisor. This is the next step. Even supervisors think that the only way up is to be a supervisor, that that's how you grow in a company. And now I think we're doing a lot better the last probably 5 plus years, maybe even 10, of saying there is growth, not just going upwards, that there's growth going
Mhm.
lateral. And you can move in a different way, an independent contributor versus a supervisor. But it's so true that a lot of companies are always pretty thin in terms of labor, and who can manage who, and they always want to give more responsibility to people that are doing the job well, that are always on time, that they are great at their job, they know what they're talking about, they know who to talk to when things go wrong. And sure, I think that's a great person to see if they want to become a manager. And I think asking that question is number 1. Like, do you want to manage people? And some people don't know what that really entails. They don't have like the raw conversations of saying being a manager is not just making sure the work is getting done. You're
Yeah.
not a project manager. That's
Yeah.
completely different. Being a supervisor and a manager is different than being a project manager. You're not only dealing with the work itself, but you're dealing with people's emotions, their personalities, and all the different things that's going on in their life that's a factor of how they show up to work. Um, so I completely agree, and not everyone's meant to be a manager or supervisor. Yes, they might get training at their company, but are they a person where people want to follow and people want to learn from and grow from and take orders from? Because it's completely different. Just because 'cause you're a good person that does the job well, doesn't mean that I wanna take orders from you or listen to you or that I respect you even, you know?
1,000%. I will say I'm trying to count on my managers, like, in my actual real big girl jobs. I've probably had 5 managers throughout the last 8 years. Out of those 5, 2 managers have truly been people that I was like, "Wow, you are someone that was meant to be managing a team that cares or at least make it seems like you individually care about everybody, and you're a true leader, like leading by, example and like practicing what they preach." And that's a kind of a sad statistic. I don't know what anyone else's like experience has been in that. I myself feel like right now I wouldn't be ready to manage a team. I can barely take care of my own tasks. But Natalie, you're a manager. And I feel like there's certain people, and I would put you in this bucket, who are good at maybe being able to care about their team's workloads and also being there, being able to jump in. And we've heard a lot of stories where managers like to just put off work to their team members versus someone who really says, like, I'm the leader of this team. And so my sort of advice to this is like, yeah, I agree with this person. I think they're from someone who's never been a manager. It's easy to point who could be a good manager or not. I don't know that I'm ready to be a manager yet, but, as someone who has I mean, there's also I'm sure it's hard to lead a team. I mean, you have a team of 8? 7?
So I used to have a team of 8. Now, thankfully, I only have a team of 1, and I got to hire
Man.
this individual. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
so much easier when you get to pick your team
It's
and
true.
they are like a melting pot of like what you're not good at, what, you are good at, and they can complement you versus a lot of managers aren't equipped to take on a team that they didn't choose. And sometimes it
Yeah,
works and sometimes it doesn't. But depending on what type of leader you are, you can at least get buy-in from like 80%, 90% of the team. And I think that's the biggest difference with leaders is like how much buy-in do you have? Do they trust you? And are you a person that can also do their job, or at
yeah,
least can help them and support them in their job and remove roadblockers for them? Because truth be told, my person that reports to me, I don't know every detail of her job. I probably couldn't do her job if she left me tomorrow, but I can
Oh,
probably do 70% of it. I could
yeah,
probably do 80% of it and learn as I go what I need to pick up. Um, but any issue that she brings up to me, I hope that she would say this, of course, and this is not just me tooting my horn, but, like, I remove roadblocks for her or I speak up for her, that she's not the one saying, like, "Hey, I have an issue," or like, "Hey, so and so is not doing their job." That's really my responsibility to take the brunt of hard conversations for her. So, I
yeah,
think supervisors have to have, like, an honest conversation with themselves, like, do they enjoy doing this, or do they just want the paycheck? And if you just want
yeah.
the paycheck, you probably wanna have different conversations.
Yeah, and I would say when I'm ready for that stage, but this is me naturally, I would do whatever I could in terms of training or like getting myself ready to be able to like manage a team as opposed to just being like, sure, I'll take the pay raise and like I'll just play it by ear every single day if someone needs an issue. Cause from the other side of it, it sucks when you have a bad manager. because you think, who am I supposed to go to if not my manager? And so I would say to all you people out there who are considering manager roles, and maybe that's not necessarily your best like personality skills, invest in it a little bit, whether it's through the company or through yourself. Like, try to figure out a way to be able to like manage a team, manage multiple personalities, especially the ones you don't pick, like Natalie said. So I think there's a lot of, if you're going to take that responsibility, you got to go a little bit of the extra step, because then it's not fair to anybody and your team's going to fail if they don't
Yeah.
trust you.
Yeah, for sure. There will always be more money, and you just have to look at things a little bit more creatively, add more value in a different way than being a supervisor. Because believe me, not everyone should be a supervisor, and it's not just individuals' fault. They are looking for like the next step, and sometimes that really is the only way to grow in certain companies. So it's definitely more on the HR departments, on leadership to realize there should be a different avenue of growth. So it's not all on
Yes.
you. And if you feel like that's your only potential way, just make sure you know what comes with being a supervisor and that you truly want to be people centric versus work centric. Because you're going to get lost in a lot of meetings, a lot of one on ones, a lot of growth conversations, a lot of hard conversations, and you're not always going to be that high performer that maybe you once were.
And that's why Natalie's a manager.
And that's why I'm your HR homegirl. But there's lots to learn, and every company is so different. There's so many nuances, but that's why we're having these conversations. All right, we're gonna do our last story of the episode, and it's titled, "Have you ever taken a massive step back in your career?" Story. Currently a senior manager at a large corporation and really want to quit. I'm overwhelmed, think about work nonstop, and I've made too many mistakes while being overwhelmed. It's hard to find time off, even though I have a lot of PTO, and work is only going to get more chaotic due to recent news. I'm fortunate enough to be okay with even a 15 to 30K salary loss if it means I can feel happier in my life and leave work at work. Yeah, this this is a big
Can I
one.
sing into the mic?
Yes.
Quit! You should quit! Girl, quit.
I also
I
am
disagree.
voting quit, but I will say, my dad always says this, "Don't quit without a job lined up." Unless, hey, you have someone at home, someone's paying the bills, you got a different stream of revenue, all the things. If you're prepared for that, then quit. Um, I am gonna speak into this just a little bit before I pass it to you, Marlene, because I took a step back. I was laid off, fired, however you wanna put it, this story for another time, but I was unemployed and I was gonna move from San Diego, California to Oregon with my boyfriend, and I didn't have a job, and I needed a job, because who doesn't? There's bills to be paid, there's shopping to be done, so I took a pay cut, and it was a pretty good pay cut. It was probably around 30K pay cut, so it was
Oh,
quite
wow.
a bit, and the title was much lower and all the things, but it's an easy job while I pursue different things, and I pursue podcasting, I pursue some social media, I pursue more consulting. So it's working for me, and I do feel a lot less stressed because I can take naps in the middle of the day and not feel bad about it.
Beautiful.
I can take PTO whenever I feel like it because the job is pretty simple and I can train up my employee to do the things that I was doing during that time. Um and I don't have huge meetings with leadership anymore. I'm not as visible, which, in the near future, I definitely do want that to change. But for the next year or so, it feels good to be able to pursue things outside of my job. And like this person said, leave my 9 to 5 at 5, if not sooner than
Yeah.
5. But at least I don't need to think about it and have nightmares about it on the weekends.
Girl, I mean, similar story. We maybe we can get into it like both of our stories at a different time, but I quit my job a year and a half ago because I liked what I did, but there was a stress that kept accumulating and Sunday scaries, and I was living like in fear, and I'm not an anxious person. And so for the first time in my life, I felt so stressed and anxiety ridden, and I would come home complaining, crying on my way home from work. And I was like, "Who am I? This isn't me," and I quit. with the one thing that you just said you don't do with no backup plan. And mind you, I had a boyfriend, of course, who was able to pick up the pieces, the bills, but I also then went into serving, which at 28 years old, to say I'm going to be a server, my friends and family, as supportive as they were, I know that they were like, girl, you're insane. But the moment I quit, the day I quit, it was like this huge sense of relief. And I kid you not, the month and a half before I found a new job when I was a server was the best month and a half of my life. Like I was living that server life where you didn't have to go at 8 a.m., wake up and go into the office. So my system was able to like re-regulate itself. And then I found my dream role, which we can get into that later. But I'm also like religious. So I feel like there's something to be said to where it's like the moment you let go of something, opportunities start to show up because you're a little desperate, so you're looking and you're trying to, figure it out and focusing all your time on that versus not having any time to try to find the next step because you're so burnt out at work. And I've been super burnt out and it is the least fun time ever. So I will say with what I did, I agree with you. Don't quit unless you have something, a true plan, whether that's just as a high paying job or whatever in that pay cut range, or like I said, I went crazy and I was a server. There has to be a plan, but no job, no value, no $1 value is worth you losing your mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thankfully, you had your Brandon, I had my
Yeah.
Brandon when I moved to Oregon. And he
Sorry
was
if you don't
like,
have a Brandon.
so if you don't have a Brandon, he will pay your bills. So go look for one.
And like sit down one day and honestly, like have a plan. Like even if it's like I said, like one of those like, oh my God, kind of embarrassing jobs, but the peace you gain is worth, I'm telling you, is worth like the embarrassment of like a lower paying job, I feel.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I've always wanted to be a server or, like, a bartender. Um, do I think I could do it now? Probably not, because it's, like, so fast-paced and you don't
Yes.
realize how much work it actually
It is
is.
a lot of work.
And my first job ever was at a movie theater, and, like, they are coming in hot. There's, like, hundreds of people coming in per day to watch movies, especially on, like, Sunday discount Sundays and
I
things.
bet.
But it was by far my favorite job. I wasn't stressed. I was having fun. Of course, the pay sucked, but you got free popcorn, you got free movies.
Yeah.
Um, so I always joke that once I retire, I'm going back to the movie theaters if they're not completely shut down because they're non-existent anymore and everyone has Netflix and
I love
YouTube
a
and
movie theater. Give me movie theater popcorn. Give me a big screen. Those like every like most theaters now have recliner chairs. Hell yeah.
yeah, I loved it. But yeah, I agree completely. No job is worth it. So if you have some stability, savings, backup plan, I say go for it. But at the same time, have a plan, have a job lined up or be on the lookout for something.
One thing I will say you've mentioned before is tapping into this like fund that some companies have of I can't even remember the name of it, but it's not disability, but it's like
Is it the
um
severance package that we're talking about?
no. It was like this sort of FMLA,
Oh,
something.
yes, yes, yes. I know that this is a big no-no for HR
Oh,
people, and, like, I would hate it if someone did it to me. Um, but
sorry.
I'm gonna give you the advice anyways. Um, there is FMLA, and you're not supposed to actually work on FMLA if you're taking it for, like, medical needs or anything like that. But I would take, a couple weeks of PTO if you have the PTO, racked up like this person does. Take PTO, go to a bunch of interviews, like, go talk to people, go network, networking groups or dinners or events and things like that on the weekend. Brush up your LinkedIn, start messaging. So take the time off and look for another job. Or if you're really burnt out, like you mentioned, Marlene, maybe it's not looking for another job at that time, but it's applying for FMLA, seeing if your doctor will sign off on something, or maybe your company will just allow you to have a personal leave. Take a month off, take 2 months off. Maybe they'll allow you to come back in a part time capacity. You don't know until you ask. And maybe you're asking the wrong people. Maybe you're asking your
Oh,
supervisor or director, even like the CEO or CFO. You're asking all the wrong people that are business driven, they're orientated, they want the numbers, they want the bottom line. You need to speak to an HR representative, and they will be the bridge in terms of telling your supervisor, "Hey, shut up. She's approved for FMLA. She's going to take 2 months off. She's going to return on this date, and there's
Yeah.
nothing that you can do about it." So, have the conversations with HR if you haven't already. But yeah, if you're burnt out, take a break. And if it's not the right
Yes.
job for you, it's not the right job for you, and it's time to look elsewhere. Your job right now, they're not going to care about you if the company goes down. They're not going to take care of you. It's not a family. So take care of yourself first and look for something that really complements your life.
Agreed. Sometimes you need a break. It sounds like she hasn't taken PTO because of whatever, and whether it's forced PTO, like, like F through that, or hey, you're telling your team I'm taking a week off. Sometimes that does wonders to your mental, honestly.
Yeah, and the weekend I mean, the weekend is never enough. 2
No.
days is not a weekend. We in the US need a 3-day weekend on a regular basis.
Please, I'll sign the petition.
I know. I've seen a couple of jobs like that when I was applying, and I was like, please God, let me get this let me get this job." Clearly, God was like, "No, I have other things in store for you. You got to work
Put you
5
to
days a
work.
week." Yeah.
You gotta work, girl.
But maybe one day. But yeah, that's our last story of the day. So again, we are on our third episode. Feel free
Yeah.
to share this episode out with all your friends, families, repost if you can. We really appreciate any sharing and kind of marketing that you guys are doing because hey, we're very, very new, but we're enjoying the
Yes.
process and learning as we go.
And let us know your, like Natalie said, and let us know your opinion in the comments to any of our stories, because not only are both of us full of opinions, it's a lot of these like stories and prompts are, you can kind of go off into 10 different opinions, or it could happen like this, it could happen like that. So we want to build this community with you guys. And like in the very beginning of our intro, we said we wanted to just be like girlies sitting on the couch, like having a glass of wine, chit-chatting, and this is a safe space, so we appreciate y'all's listen.
Yeah. Ditto to that. There's so many different directions that we can go with conversations, and we have our opinions, but everyone has their own, and maybe we completely miss the
Yeah.
point, or maybe we just hit the mark. So, anyways, let us know in the comments. Have a wonderful Friday. If you're listening to this, this is probably going to be posted a week from now on a Thursday.
We're working,
But
girl,
any
okay?
yeah, we're working people. We'll get this out as soon as we can, but appreciate everyone for joining us and listening. So stay tuned for the next episode.